excited to be on the air again with you at Promise Live. And we want to welcome our wonderful viewers today. And I know we have a very special guest, someone that I personally think very highly of, and that's Dr. Forrest Turpen. And Brother Forrest, good to have you aboard.
It's great to be here.
Thank you. And you are actually the West Coast Regional Director of Christian Educators Association.
That's right.
Which is a nationwide Christian teachers union. Is that correct?
Well, I wouldn't say union. It's
Okay.
a professional association, but it's like a professional association for Christians in public schools.
Wonderful. And of course, these are educators who happen to be of the Christian persuasion working in public schools. And could you tell us a little bit about the history of Christian educators, what it's all about for our viewing audience today?
I would be glad to do that, Pastor Mike. We grew up as an organization in 1953. Dr. Clyde Naramore, some people may remember that name,
Yes.
A psychologist here in California, and Ben Weiss, who was a principal of Metropolitan High School in Los Angeles. They got together one day as educators because Dr. Naramore was an educational psychologist to begin his career before he became involved with Naramore Foundation. And what he did, they got together and one person was writing on a napkin and the other one says, you know, we really need to form some kind of an organization for Christian educators here in California and throughout the United States. And Ben turned over his napkin and he had written practically the same thing.
Oh my
so
goodness.
The hand of God, with these two men to begin in 1953 this organization for teachers.
Goodness, and it has continued all of these years and doing and flourishing and doing a great work. And what would you say is the emphasis or the vision from even the very beginning? What is the vision of the organization itself, would you say?
Basically, the vision is this, that we know that there are Christian educators in public schools who are teachers. And what they wanted to do was to be able to encourage them, to equip them, to help them to resource those Christian educators so that they could be God's ambassadors right where they're called in that classroom, so that they can be involved in such a way that God's truth, the vision was for God's truth to be able to demonstrate that and His love to the school community.
Isn't that wonderful? And so it is possible then for teachers of the Christian persuasion in public schools to be that witness and that testimony then in the public sector, would you say?
Definitely. It doesn't matter where you are. When the Holy Spirit was within you,
amen.
You know, and you go into wherever you go, whether it's a classroom or whether it's down the hall or whether you're a truck driver, it doesn't matter. That sense of the Holy Spirit, God is there, and you're going to be, if you're connected to Him, to the Lord Jesus Christ, you're going to respond in such a way that people understand that you're different and that you have the opportunity to share God's truth. And so, yes, in the public schools, there are many ways in which you can be a witness for Christ.
Right. And not have to compromise your faith or anything of that nature. I think what a great concept it is, and Christian educators now is reaching all across the country. Is that right?
Yeah, we're in every state.
Goodness.
We're trying. We obviously try to do several kinds of things, like encourage those teachers who are on a campus to get together, to pray for their school, to pray for the children, to pray for their administrator, and to just come together to make sure that God's presence is known and felt in that school district and in their building.
I think it's wonderful how they get together and pray like that for the school and right in the middle of the campus, shall we say. Mm-hmm. And like you said, even before things get started, already there's a prayer, there's the presence of God is there. And of course, they're there, as you mentioned a moment ago, ambassadors for Christ in the educational setting. Right. And there is a great need for this type of organization, isn't there, Dr. Forrest? There's great need.
Yes, because, in the 60s, everybody in this nation seemed to think that God was ruled out of public schools because of what the Supreme Court had to say. But that isn't the truth. And I guess one of the things that we're trying to do as an organization not only for teachers but for the body of Christ.
Yes.
Capital C, is to understand that we're being destroyed for lack of knowledge.
That's
in
right.
one sense, because as Hosea 4:6 says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge because we don't know what our rights are. We don't know how we can minister and effectively encourage and equip not only the teachers but the children that are in those buildings.
So one of the great purposes of Christian educators then is to educate the professional teacher in the secular setting about what their rights are as Christians within that setting. Is that right?
That's correct. We provide booklets and materials and workshops and seminars so that can be communicated. We have lots of other kinds of tools that we use to make that happen.
My goodness. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful work that you're doing across the country, and I'm sure that it's having a profound effect in the classroom, on the campus. I imagine that your organization has information about the effect it's having, and I imagine it's doing something great. Would you say?
I would say yes. When God is lifted up, when Christ is lifted up in whatever setting,
right?
And the Lord is glorified, things are happening in a positive direction.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
And currently, you as the leaders now have retained that vision of the original founders, haven't you, and what they wanted to do in the country in education.
Right, we have, and one of their founding principles was to try to pull teachers together in a school district, to equip them, to encourage them so that they knew what their rights are. They knew, and fellowship together. They could share things together that would help them to. Let's take, for instance, Easter coming up.
Yes, right.
Okay, so how are you going to witness about the fact that Easter is the truth of the resurrection of the Lord Jesus Christ, coming from the tomb, that kind of thing. So they would share ideas, when they came together, and that's what they're still doing, so that we can make a difference to bring that and look at different ways you can present that in the classroom.
Right.
There are some schools in some districts where it's a little more difficult to work. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a closed nation, if you understand what I'm saying.
Sure.
So how do you contextualize, if you will, the gospel to take it into that kind of a setting? So that's part of what we try to do as a ministry.
Wonderful. And what has been the response in some of the favorable schools, shall we say? What has been the overall response of that influence within the school itself?
Well, what happens is when we're present and God is present through us as teachers, and we encourage the parents who are Christians, the behavior on those campuses change for the best. Academics tend to increase in terms of the students.
Goodness.
So those kinds of things are outgrowths, which you would expect.
Oh,
because
sure. Very positive.
Very positive. And so that's one of the benefits of having Christians on your campus and part of encouraged to be God's ambassador right there.
I think it's wonderful. Here are these Christian educators. They're well equipped. I mean, they have the proper credentials and backgrounds and of all the other teachers. And yet the qualitative difference would be is their faith in the Lord. Amen. And maintaining that faith in the profession itself. And I think that the belonging to your organization, it must be great if you're a teacher out there looking for an organization that is Christian-based, an educational organization such as Christian Educators. You might consider looking into that wonderful organization. And I'm sure that our many of our teachers that are viewing today are being encouraged by what you're saying, that there is a group out there in place doing these wonderful things in the country.
Well, one of the things, Mike, that happens is many Christians, when they go into a public school setting, they think they're all alone.
Oh, yes.
And they get discouraged very easily. And it's only when they begin to understand that there are other Christians almost always on a campus.
Yes.
And they begin to come together. And they begin to pray with one another.
Wonderful.
And they begin to lift up the Lord and pray for the situation there in their buildings. that the presence of God really begins to change
Yes.
what's going on.
The whole
in that school.
atmosphere
The whole
starts to
atmosphere
change.
changes. And so we think it's a privilege for us to be able to help those teachers understand. And one of the things that happens out of all of that is we get telephone calls because there are situations that are negative for the teacher.
I'm sure.
And so we wind up being counselors, pastors, if you will,
Yes.
to those teachers that are, and even sometimes parents who their children have some difficulties, and we can help them understand, here's what you can do, here's what you need to do, and here's how you can serve the Lord in doing these things with your child or with the kids in your classroom.
So there is actually a support base within the organizations where the teachers can call in if there's a problem, or they feel lonely out there, or they need a little encouragement. You folks are there to encourage them and lift them up.
Absolutely.
And I noticed you brought some wonderful materials. There's a lot of wonderful aids that you can give to these teachers, especially if they're new to the organization, haven't you?
Yes. Well, especially in the area of understanding what you can do and where the lines are drawn, the Christian Legal Society has helped us by developing a book that we produce. It has 43 questions that most Christian teachers would ask about, where are the lines drawn.
Sure.
And we make that available to those teachers and or even lawyers, because sometimes lawyers don't even know what some of the things are that's really legal to be able to do.
Sure.
And also youth pastors who are working with students, obviously on the campus. We try to come alongside those, and we connect with some organizations like National Network of Youth Ministries, Campus Crusade, Youth for Christ, and those kinds of things. And so right here in California, we do a thing at Biola University for students. We work with those organizations together to minister to even not only teachers, but high school students and middle school students.
My goodness. And it all boils down to the fact that people need the Lord, isn't it, Dr. Forrest?
Amen. You betcha.
You're holding back in tears today. Wonderful. And I'm so thrilled with your organization because it's nationwide, and it ministers such a great service to the body of Christ through education. And we at Promise Christian University, as you know, our job is to educate people getting ready for ministry and the marketplace, whatever profession. But in your particular case, you're organizing these wonderful teachers on secular campuses all over the country.
Yes.
I just think it's amazing. And you mentioned a moment ago that you're in every state in the union.
Right.
My goodness.
Yes.
And how many years now has this organization been going on?
Well, we're right at 57, 58 years.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. And just for those teachers that might be viewing in here today, and I'm sure they are, why don't you speak to their hearts today for us? What do you feel that if they're Christians and they're in the environment of the secular educational part, what can they do or should they do?
Well, there are many things that they need to do. First of all, they need to be prayed up.
Right.
That's fundamental for us as Christians.
Absolutely.
And not only prayed up, but it would be encouraging for them to really establish somewhere 3 to 5 people maybe out of their church who would regularly pray for them.
Yeah.
So that they could send them information about how to pray on a regular basis, say weekly.
Yes.
The other thing is they need to establish the prayer opportunities on their campus with other believers. They need to volunteer, actually. If I were to speak to teachers, I would say we need to be the people that volunteer for leading the Christmas program, leading in any of the programs, so that God's truth gets in there. So because if you don't do it as a Christian, someone else in that building is going to do it, and they're not going to bring probably a Christian worldview into it.
That's right.
Another thing that Christian teachers need to do when they're looking at what they teach is, okay, the textbooks that I'm using or the materials that I have, is it bringing a secular worldview only into the classroom? And if that's the case, how do I bring a Christian worldview into that classroom So the other thing that I'm reminded of is that, in Matthew chapter 18, verse 14, and the song really reminded me of this, it says after Jesus has talked a little bit about the parable of the lost sheep, the going up for the 99,
yes.
and 99 and 1.
Sure.
Immediately after that Jesus says, thus, it's the will of the Father,
right,
who is in heaven, that not one of these little ones should
yes.
perish. And not only to the teachers in the classroom, but I'm going to speak to the church at large.
Yes, please
because
do.
we need to be looking at our opportunities that we have in public school, because that's where the children are.
Right.
And, for me, my heart is the children. How do we make the message clear, and how do we go to the local public school to serve as the church? In other words, can we adopt that school that's
right.
down the street?
Right.
And how can we do that by serving the school so that the influence of God's perspective floods that school?
Yes.
So that these children are not denied the opportunity to know who Christ is.
That's wonderful.
So to me, that's one of the problems I think that we have in our culture, that sometimes we thought we can't go there as the church, but I don't think that's true, and I actually know it's not true.
Right.
That it's happening and beginning to happen. In 1985, we started to say to the church, you need to adopt school. You need to begin. And I was just in a conference with what's called city reachers.
Yes.
And those city reachers are beginning to see that, hey, the institution of the school that's just down the street, we need to be there. We need to make a difference, and we have the opportunity to do that. We need to support the Christian teachers that are there. They're missionaries in that school, and we need to release them for ministry.
Wonderful.
And because sometimes, as I said, they feel all alone, and they need the church to recognize that they can make a difference if the church would just help and recognize that we can make a difference for Christ in that public school.
Right in the school. And it all starts there, as you mentioned, Dr. Forrest. I mean, these are future leaders of the United States. These little kids, we don't know, one of them might be president of the United States one day, or a congressman, senator, or perhaps a general of the army. We don't know who's sitting out there. And to bring early on this influence for the Lord in that setting, I think is just marvelous. Now, your organization also produces this wonderful magazine. This comes out monthly, right? This teacher's magazine.
Well, actually, it's a quarterly magazine that we do right here in California. Our national office is back in Ohio, but out of our regional office, we put this together.
Right.
And it really is a resource for teachers. Every member gets it, and anyone who would like one, we would be happy to send it to them.
Sure.
Obviously, what it does is give them ideas of how to minister.
How to minister.
We do themes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't remember what theme that one was. But so those educators then can get the idea that it's okay for me to do these things. It gives them ideas about how to make that happen. So
wonderful. Yeah. And these teachers viewing today, if they're interested in Christian Educators Association, this organization of teachers, Christian teachers in secular school, they can get a hold of your through Christian Educators. I'm sure they can find you on the web and so forth. And but we appreciate that. And I know you also have a yearly convention where you meet together throughout the country. I think it's wonderful what God is doing. And we appreciate so much your being with us today, Dr. Forrest. I want to thank you.
Great to be here.
And you're doing a wonderful job. Our prayers are with you. I know as an educator yourself, doing a great work for the Lord in the schools. And we appreciate men of your caliber today.
Thank you.
Well, Dudley, praise the Lord again today.
Mike, as usual, your guest was such a blessing to us. And we're glad that you tuned in. The weekly broadcast of Promise Christian Live is intended to encourage, to inspire, and to help you get through the good times and the bad. May your life be a life well lived. See you next week. Oh, by the way, our phone number is 626-296-7507. And in case you want to call us, That is, and the email, you can email us at PCULive@mypcu.com if you want to contact us through email. God be with you.